Yes, everybody, welcome back to TarHeelIllustrated.com. If you are watching on our fast-growing YouTube channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. I'm THI staff writer Jacob Turner, and joining me for another episode of our UNC football off-season ISO series, a very own publisher, Andrew Jones. And AJ, we're here to talk about Ray Vohasek in this one, defensive lineman for the Tar Heels, who's returning for a graduate year at Carolina. Really excited to kind of dive in to Ray. And I think a lot of Carolina fans got some expectations for him to have another big year for Carolina this year. Before we dive into him, though, I want to give a shout out to our sponsor on this one, myperfectfranchise.net. And guys, difficult times right now. The past few years really have been with COVID, pandemic, all the stuff going on, particularly job-wise. But you can take control of your own path with myperfectfranchise.net. Andy Ludicky, founder owner, is a longtime Rivals member, diehard college football fan, and franchise veteran, having owned multiple franchises and businesses throughout his professional career. Using his expertise, he helps others find their American dream through a very thorough and free consultation process. Call Andy, put your life and career in your own hands. It's 100% free. I mean, what do you guys have to lose? So if you're interested in potentially taking a new path, open your own franchise, Andy Ludicky is the guy to go with. I mean, it's a great time to do so with all the uncertainty of the last couple of years. So many people have switched career paths. You can call him for free. You can get a consultation with them and decide if this is something you want to do. Again, guys, check him out. Find your perfect franchise at myperfectfranchise.net. Link to that is going to be below. Anything you want to add, AJ? I see you.
Yeah, and as a University of Texas football freak,
okay,
he is a huge Mac Brown fan.
Yes.
So he has an eye on the Tar Heels every week, not just because he sponsors our site, but because he really deeply actually wants Mac Brown to succeed. So he's a big Mac Brown guy.
Love it. Love the Mac Brown connection in there as well. Yeah, check it out, myperfectfranchise.net. Give Andy Ludicky a call. Could be something you want to do. You can take control of your own path, take control of your own career. Why not? I mean, it's free, like we said. I mean, it's a no-brainer. If you ask me if that's something you've been considering, why not take the jump now and make it happen? All right, AJ, let's talk about Ray Vohasek in this one. Before I dive into kind of my thoughts on Ray and the year he could have for the Tar Heels, around 6'3", 300 pounds, been around the program for a few years now, obviously transferred in from JUCO in 2019 when it was his sophomore season, and been with the Tar Heels ever since. Started all 13 games on the defensive line, all ACC honorable mention last year during his senior year. Like I said, returned for an extra one for the Tar Heels this go around. But AJ, what are your thoughts on Ray Vohasek?
I love his story. I love the not really recruited much out of high school, go to junior college, get hurt, miss time, can't lift weights. You know, he was actually originally brought in for an official visit under Larry Fedora. He had down to Carolina and Kansas. So at the time, Carolina they were really in need of guys. And we all know what Kansas football has been for most of its history. But here's a guy who worked his way into getting a low-end P5 offers, which is what Carolina was at the time. But he's turned himself into a high-end P5 guy. And I love that. And his track, you cannot discuss Ray Vohasek without going back to his track in high school in Illinois, in JC right there, not far from where he grew up, and then the perseverance that he has shown. I mean, here's a dude that can walk the walk and talk the talk. If you need someone to inspire you about how, okay, it's not really working out today, but that doesn't mean today is the end. Tomorrow is a different day. There is a process. Ray Vohasek is a walking, living example of that. And I love that part of his story, but also love that part of his game. He graded out last season at 73.3. There are people that believe he's an NFL guy. And I absolutely love this part about football, college football. The recruiting rankings are fun. They're great. They mean something in some respect, and they mean absolutely nothing in other respects. There are guys in the NFL that recruiting rankings across the board completely ignored. Guys like Ray Vohasek. And he could be in the NFL next year. There are scouts that believe he could play in the league. I think the coaching staff thinks he has a chance. The reason he came back for another year was to kind of fortify his game. He needed more reps. He had 550 last year, 430 something the year before that, not much the year before that. And he missed a lot of time in JC. So, it's his graduate year. He's taking advantage of that extra year of the NCAA game, but he missed so much time and was hampered so much by the injury that this is really his fourth full college season. So he'll be where he needs to be as a pro prospect. As far as him helping this year's team, man, when you've got a dude who's 23 years old on the defensive line with two hands in the ground, who is what I call a glass eater. It's a term we used to use back in the 80s in football, glass eater. When you have a guy like that, a guy that commands respect in that room, a guy who performs as well, he just elevates everybody else. I think a couple of times when Myles Murphy has been asked about his development and growth, he has cited watching a guy like Vohasek, watching his work ethic, watching his grind, watching his bag, watching his dig. And that has helped elevate him sort of, okay, this guy's going at that standard. Well, we all got to go at that standard too. And I think that the value that Ray Vohasek has for this offense or for this defensive front and really defense in general, what he gives that group is more than just what he does on his reps in the field. I think there are a lot of elements to it. And because of that, I think he is one of the more valuable players on the team. Agreed.
I think there was some chatter of him preseason last year. He was kind of voted some like second team All-American. Some people had him All ACC, and it finished the year with 38 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, 1 sack, 4 hurries, 3 breakups, All ACC honorable mention for the second season in a row. I say that because I've said this about a few guys on the defensive end because of Gene Chizik coming in. And with the scheme going to be completely different, more of a simplified kind of defense here associated. Gene's such a great defensive coach as well. I think Ray's a guy that can really shine, not only because he's a really good player, and under a new scheme, I think he can be that much better because, like you said, he's so experienced. He's been around the block. He's 22, 23 years old at this point. He's a guy that's been around. He's a veteran down there. He has the size. I think he has the athleticism. He's a guy that I think could be poised on that defensive line, along with the likes of Myles Murphy, to throw another name out there, to have a really big season and an All ACC caliber season that a lot of people kind of expected him to have last year, when I think a lot of people expected Carolina's defense just to be a lot better than it was last year. So I think Ray's a guy during this year that Carolina fans should be looking out for. I think he's a guy that there's another level, in my opinion, that he can go up. And I think under Gene Chizik, a defensive coach like that, I think he's a guy that can get the best out of Ray Vohasek. And when you combine all the other stuff that he brings, experience, size, and just his ability, I think he's a guy that you got to watch out for down there on the defensive line.
A lot of the guys, especially in the front line, defensive line, who go from not on anybody's radar to where Ray is, they kind of become specialists. They can do one thing. They could be in certain scenarios. I think Ray can play in a lot of scenarios. He can win head-on-head battles. He can handle the gaps really well. He's quick enough, I think, to get through and make some plays in the backfield. He's strong enough to occupy multiple blockers. So there's a lot of things that he can do that makes the rest of the defense better. And the thing is that they have enough guys now up front where Ray doesn't need to get into the 50s and 60s in snaps. Ray could be in the 38 to 45 snap range, the 40 snap range, which I think is a fair number. And that's where he will excel best. We've heard coaches say, I think Phil Longo talked about a wide receiver from Ole Miss. He produced just the same at 60 snaps as he did at 82. So you want to be able to limit. I think Ray is a guy who could be very productive in the 40 snap range. So that's where he's probably going to be this year. So he's not going to be on the field too much overplaying in a sense because of the rest of the depth there. So the other guys, that room being fuller now and a lot more trust going around is actually going to make Ray better. It's going to be a very efficient player in the 38 to 40 snap range. And that's just going to make this a better team. I'm really looking forward to seeing him capitalize on this last year, make the most of it. And if he does that, and if he certifies himself as an NFL candidate, a strong NFL candidate, it's just going to make Carolina better this year.
Agreed. I think there's so many guys for Carolina fans to be excited about because of that Gene Chizik factor coming in on the defensive side of the ball. And I think Ray Vohasek should be kind of your top of your list there. Like I said, because of his experience and just because he is a good player. I just think he can develop and continue to take that next step and maybe even, have a legitimate chance at making a career in the NFL. If he has a big year this year, I think that's, not out of the question at all. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what kind of year Ray can have on that defensive line for the Tar Heels. I think it's a good place to wrap this one up, the Ray Vohasek edition of our UNC football off-season, if I can get that out, ISO series. I've been Jacob Turner. He's been Andrew Jones. Make sure you guys check out the rest of them that we've done so far. Just go on our YouTube channel, click playlist, and you'll see our ISO series playlist there where you can go watch all of those. Quick shout out once again to our sponsor on this one, myperfectfranchise.net. Get in contact with Andy if you're interested. Just visit myperfectfranchise.net and get a thorough and free consultation, 100% free. If you want to switch up a career, take control of your own path, you can do that with myperfectfranchise.net. Like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell as well, so you know every single time we upload. And we'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks.
Thanks.